The Phono Preamp is the most important electronic part of your vinyl playback chain. And this Parasound JC3 Plus Phono stage is designed by John Curl. That is a big deal, and that's because John Curl is amongst the most respected audio circuit designers. And his legacy includes amps from Mark Levinson. Now, the JC3 Plus is Parasound's top-of-the-line phono stage, but it is approachably priced. With all that being said, does the JC3 have the sonic performance to back it up? Let's discuss that. The JC3 Plus retails for $28.50 USD in this beautiful black edition, but right now the silver edition is on sale for about $2,200 US. It's a dual mono design, has a gain of 48 dB for moving magnet, 64 dB for moving coil cartridges, adjustable impedance loading for moving coils from 50 ohms to 550 ohms, both RCA and XLR output connections. It has a mono switch which can lower the noise floor on mono recorded LPs. The phono stage, while being the most critical amplification unit in your record source chain, it is susceptible to noise, has to perform equalization, and during this equalization process, it cuts the treble and boosts the bass frequencies by plus 20 decibels. Not only that, it has to convert signals as low as 0.2 volts to consumer level line stage voltages as high as 2 volts. So as you can see, maintaining low electrical and mechanical noise floor is important to ensure fidelity of the output signal. To accomplish this, this phono stage has some serious engineering underneath the hood. The JC3 Plus has a large built-in power conditioning, something you don't usually notice in this price range. The AC section, the power supply, and the signal path sections are all shielded from each other by shields made of low carbon mild steel that provide a lot of reduction of magnetic fields. For connections, the RCA inputs are the Vampire brand 24 karat gold plated, and the XLRs are premium Nutric branded jacks. The variable loading resistance feature for moving coils is done by using high quality Vishay potentiometers for each individual channel, so the loading can be achieved real time during playback. The list of high quality paths goes on and on. Vishay Dale resistors in the audio path, separate premium high speed soft recovery rectifiers, filter caps, and voltage regulators for each channel. Okay, now about the system in which this was being used. Sources are my Riga Planar 10 turntable with a Shelter Harmony moving coil. My other turntable I used is an LP12 sound deck with an iTalk LB2 tone arm fitted with the Koetsu Black moving coil. The output from the JC3 Plus was fed to the Musical Fidelity M6 preamp, coupled to a Chord Electronics T-Toby amplifier. Speakers used for this evaluation were Acoustic Energy Corinium speakers and sometimes the ProAct K1 stand mounts. First thing I noticed was the low noise floor. When the needle drops on a clean record groove, I often had to check to see if the volume on my preamp was turned up high enough, because it was just complete silence when there is no music in the grooves. Then the music emerges from black backgrounds. The second thing I noticed about the unit was the fine balance of light warmth in the treble without sacrificing any air or detail. Another thing that stood out was the unrestrained dynamics, high and very clear contrast between loud and quiet. Here come some of my record examples. First one is by The Doors, LA Woman. This is an Analog Productions release, double 45 album. On this, there is a track called L'America. The beginning guitar licks. Oh man, it sounds like someone plugged an electric guitar into an amp and struck the chords live in the room. The explosion from the distortion of the guitar and the tone sounded strikingly real, followed by the presence of the organ. Turn up the volume and there isn't any discernible distortion, just bigger, clearer sonic images of the organ, the guitar, the snap of the snare shots. Jim Morrison's voice opens up in the center stage, a feet or so behind the plane of the speakers, but not laid back, not forward either, just sounds scaled right and clearly outlined. The bass guitar is also tight and very clearly defined. Has that solid realism about it. The cymbal taps, The hi-hat play is interesting here. They sound airy with a touch of warmth too, just that right amount. So in this record, this is the one instrument that didn't sound completely explosive or sharp as it would in a live setting. A bit of restraint, and it sounded polished and sweet with a lot of detail, except for that last bit of liveliness. Maybe that's how it was recorded. Next up is the Red Norvo Quintet. Album is called The Forward Look. This is a jazz album, and it's superbly recorded with vibes, guitar, reeds, bass, and drums. This is a Professor Johnson reference recording, and with tracks like The Forward Look, Between the Devil and the Blue Sea, Room 608, wow, the tone, the harmonics, and the reverb tails from the vibes and the snare rim shots sounded fantastic. Drumming is fantastic, and this is a record to show off both the micro and macro dynamics of your system. The air and snap from the sound of the skin on the snare drums and the hi-hats sounded almost completely unrestrained, just open with texture and slam, but again with that slight hint of warmth in the high frequencies from the reeds. This album is a real jazz gem, and you can find it used for a very reasonable price. Next album is Bill Evans' Waltz for Debbie. This is probably Bill Evans' most popular album. This particular copy is a Crafts OJC release, reasonably priced and accessible. This album was recorded in a nightclub setting. You hear the tinkling of glass bottles, conversation is the background. None of this affects the sound or music, of course. In fact, it actually adds to the atmosphere, the ambience. Bill Evans' piano sounds so sweet in tone and weighty in the body. The sonic image of the piano occupies a definite position in the soundstage between the speakers. Same with Scott LaFaro's bass, neatly outlined in the soundstage. The interplay between the piano and the bass and the percussion work is so intelligible, easy to follow, and so easy to fall in love with. Melodies like Detour Ahead, My Romance, and of course, Waltz for Debbie. These tracks are simply a great treat to listen to. The entire album is a masterpiece. This album here is an awesome collection of really well-recorded tracks by Analog Productions. One of my favorite live recordings in here is Hugh Maskella's Stimella. The JC3 Plus did full justice to this track. The dynamic performance was completely unrestrained across the frequency. The powerful impact of the bass drum can be felt in the chest, smashing and crashing of the cymbals, explosive rim shots, and live sounding saxophone. And man, Maskella's vocals, this guy has some serious range. He can go from sounding deep and low to sounding high the next second, and the entire performance was presented in such a wholesome, well-knit manner. The song conveys the pain and suffering of the mine workers of Johannesburg back in the day in a charged and emotive manner. If you haven't heard it, make it a point to listen, or believe me, you are missing out. The JC3 Plus certainly has the potential to be your last phono stage you will need without going into the crazy expensive territory. But this isn't your only choice. For example, the Manley Chinook can be had for well under 3,000 USD. Extremely solid performer, and you should watch my video on it. Also, here are 10 audiophile records you should know about that can show off your hi-fi system's performance. What phono preamps come to mind if you were shopping for the under $3,000 bracket? Let me know in the comments below.